My buddy Adam works for a company called Yofi, and they're handling this for brands all the time around fraud.
We're using No Fraud.
I'll shout out Yofi. Yofi's been like a good one for us.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of No Fraud as well.
So what we were able to do with No Fraud was,
I'm a big fan of Yofi.
No, we can't talk about Yofi. I'm literally gonna call Adam.
Why?
Because I'm gonna call Adam because I literally told him if frickin' Dan brings up Yofi, I'm gonna be like, you have to sponsor my podcast.
Oh my God, he literally is calling.
Adam, I'm on the podcast right now with Dan and Breanna, and we're at the part where we have to talk about what technology they like, and Dan brought up Yofi, so you need to sponsor this episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to the CX Mixer, the last episode of season 2. I'm super excited for this one. I've been trying to get Dan on for a while, and I've been trying to find an excuse to get Breanna. And when I came up with the idea for this episode that I'm calling 0 to 100, building CX from day one, I couldn't think of a better combo. And so, Dan, I've known you now for, a year or so now?
Yeah, I'd say a year and a half at this point.
And Breanna, I've known you for 3 years. You've been stuck with me for a long time. But for those that don't know you, and I think I've been joking with our production team, we're going to have to bleep a lot of stuff out of this episode. But Dan, you're launching a celebrity-backed fashion brand from scratch. And Breanna, you helped True Classic, if I can say it. I say it every day. You think I could say it. You helped True Classic grow from ground zero to $250 million. So I'm excited to pick your brain on some of this stuff, but maybe that's kind of high level who you are. Let's start with Dan. Give a little background on your experience, where you came from, as much as you can tell us about what you're doing now.
Yeah, I'm Dan Kaparski. I'm currently director of digital product at unnamed brand launching soon. You'll shortly hear more about that. So my focus in my career has always been tech. I started as a product manager and then got back into e-commerce. I was always a big fan of retailer and worked for a bunch of different brands, always worked multi-brand. I was previously at Archipelago Companies, which owns Olakai, Melon, Rourke, and a couple other brands. Was doing the same thing over there, running all technology. And then, been getting exposed to customer experience. I mean, I think, being in e-commerce and being in retail, that's always a part of the game. But really, when I was, before Archipelago, I was at Board Riders, which owned a bunch of these surf brands from the 90s and early 2000s. We were going through a sale and there was basically no customer service team as we were going through that. So I learned real quickly, kind of dove right in feet first and kind of jumped in. And then at Archipelago, I took over managing the customer experience team before I exited. So always been a part of my background and excited to build it out at this new brand, which comes with a whole new set of challenges that I was still not ready to tackle.
Well, maybe you'll take some stuff away from this conversation today. But I think we have a mutual friend in Ian at Pipe 17. That's how I think we actually got connected. And when Ian, you've got an impressive background, but when Ian first introduced me to you, I think it was at Shop Talk in Vegas. And he was like, oh yeah, you got to know Dan. He used to be a DJ. He knows all the coolest places to go. So you left that part out of your story.
Oh.
Yes, that is, a former life at this point. But yes, through my 20s, early 30s, while I still had a day job, I was DJing in LA and Vegas and all around Orange County. And yeah, a lot of sleepless nights and early mornings.
Dan can throw some parties, I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep, I have that in my bag of tricks, but now everyone knows. So thanks, Larry.
There you go. Well, maybe I'll have Dan. Maybe I'll have Dan DJ when he's got some free time at one of my CX Mixer events.
Genius.
I feel like I'm always telling them throw on 90s R&B is kind of like my little go-to for my events, and so we could probably do some really cool DJ stuff. But so I had to make sure we included that little note about you because I think that does bring a lot to the fun and energy that you bring to CX. I've just, obviously heard a lot of stories about you, and I can only imagine what you're doing now at this new brand. But Breanna, the experienced-wise brand consultant now,
Yes.
working for a handful of brands, but primarily, like I said, I wanted to talk to you today about your experience with True Classic. But for those who haven't been able to catch you at one of my events, give us a little bit of background about your time at True Classic and what you do.
Yeah, so I got into the e-com space probably 10 plus years ago now, and worked through a few different brands, building and scaling their CX teams. True Classic found me. I was hired as employee number one, which is crazy and an amazing honor. But we really did literally grow the brand from the ground up and really over indexed on customer experience, and super excited to have grown that to what it is now, and left them last year. I can't believe that it's been a year already, and kind of embarked on a new adventure that's been so fun and so fulfilling in being able to help show up for multiple brands and taking everything that I've learned over my tenure in ecom. So do you have any like fun facts about me, Larry, that I've left out? Because I feel like I
learned this
can't
the other
compete.
day that you ride horses.
Oh, yes, this is true.
You've never mentioned horses in like 3 years that I've known you. And then someone was like, yeah, Brianna's got a bunch of horses. I was like, what?
Yeah. I only have one now, but I also, fun fact, I'm like scared to ride now. So it's a stupid thing where it's like confidence. And now I've like lost my confidence. Like speaking Spanish. I can't,
So
I'm nervous to
it's
speak
like getting
Spanish.
back on the horse is not the
Exactly.
phrase.
That's a real phrase. That's what it means. But yeah,
I love it.
it still doesn't touch Dan's DJing.
Well, we'll find something cool for you to do. I mean, you've been to Vegas a couple times. We could probably get you DJing in Vegas.
Yeah, I know a couple people. We'll get you up there.
Okay.
Get enough vodka sodas in our show, DJ. No, I think this is perfect. You guys both, I knew this is a fun way to end season 2. We started the CX Mixer podcast season 1 with True Classic and Tommy John, and now to end with you guys is kind of like a fun full circle moment as we wrap up the year. But just as we start to like think about, before we jump into the segments, when someone says like customer experience at day one, what is like the first thing that comes to mind? And Dan, since you're living it, I'll sort of start with you.
Yeah, I mean, since we're, pre-launch, for me, it's making checklists and just thinking about every piece of it. And there is a lot. And right now, very lean team. So I'm constantly working on that. We're working on it in groups, trying to come together of, what needs to be done, getting the tech in place, but then also like, FAQs, what are our returns policies, and all things that, you're an established brand. That stuff's been there. You have a foundation. It's kind of coming, from, zero, which I would love. I can't wait to hear what Breanna has to say, because she's done this before. So I'm going to be learning a lot on this podcast.
Yeah, no, Dan, I think you've got it. You're going to take everything that you've had from your previous experience and start to build it out. So you're going to crush it.
What do you think, Breanna, when someone says customer experience at day one? I mean, you built it out for a brand, but like looking back, like what does that mean? Especially given what technology was when you started.
I know. This is very true. When we kind of talked about this podcast, I thought like, wow, Dan's already investing in the customer experience space and making sure that he has the appropriate people in the appropriate seats. And I'm like, most startups don't even think about that. Like customer service is the last thing on their to-do list. And so you're already showing up, I think, mostly for your consumer, but more than most brands out there. They kind of always put customer support, customer experience on that back burner, because they're like, oh, we'll figure it out as we go. So I think the fact that you're prioritizing that is super admirable, and you're already set up for success. But I do believe in, exactly like you touched on, Dan, processes, thinking about what are we potentially going to face, and making sure that you have all of that foundation laid. So then again, you can just continue to stack on top of it. Obviously, like you said, Larry, I love tech. I love partnering with people that are making big moves to impact the support teams, the community, people you have running your community teams, your social teams. Obviously, that's going to make everything better, so we could get more done with less. I love lean teams. We don't need ridiculously large overhead. So all about process, predicting what we're going to need, and then kind of figuring it out as you go.
Yeah. And I think that's a good segment here or a segue into the first segment, which is this CX playbook. And I think, Dan, when I'm thinking about you, and obviously you have experience in e-commerce, so you kind of are taking, to what Breanna said, you're taking some of the stuff that you know already and you're bringing it to this new brand. But I'm thinking about this idea of like launch, right? You guys are launching here in January, I think is what you told us, right? So you're still kind of got like a month and a half to figure some stuff out. But when you're thinking ahead to that launch, what's a tactic that's in your playbook that you feel like makes your team, I'm assuming you've got a tinier team than you had at Archipelago Group. Like, what is it that you're doing to try to make this new brand feel premium?
Yeah, I mean, I think to stay on the premium side, it's, the service you're going to provide the customer. That's why we did started thinking about customer experience early, because I've been at larger places where it was always on the back burner. And, that touch point is, a key retention touch point. We only have one chance to gain a customer and make them loyal. They had a bad experience with support or, with an agent. You can't win that person back. And so the way we're looking at it, because we have unnamed celebrity, where this is going to light up quickly, whereas it's not going to be a slow ramp. Like, we're going to have a lot of eyeballs that we need to be dialed in the process and with our tech, and making sure that we can hit SLAs, which we don't even have, really KPI'd out. It's like, how quickly are we going to respond to the customer? And there's going to be a lot of off the wall stuff that we think is going to come in, and how do we deal with that? How do we make sure, one, our agents and our team feels human, because I can only imagine, stuff that people get in their DMs as the celebrities. So we're trying to prepare for that, but then also, high volume, we're just expecting a lot. So we're just trying to be as ready as possible and really put a focus on it. And we do have all departments working together, even though it's a lean team. We have our head of finance, our CEO, we have the product team. We're all involved in like crafting, what are some of our processes? What are our, what's responses? And then starting to build like real FAQs. I think the other challenge with a new brand is just, sizing is always a question. People don't know your product. So how are you really explaining that so the customer knows exactly what they're getting?
Yeah. And I think you're kind of in this sweet spot where like you're thinking about all these things, but you don't have the actual customer feedback coming in. Right. So you're probably going to have to pivot a ton as soon as that go live happens, because now all these scenarios you've run in your head, you'll see actually play out. And then hopefully all of your FAQs and flows are matching up to what the consumers are saying or interacting with the brand for.
Yeah. I mean, what's the phrase, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. It's kind of what we're expecting. So, we're ready for it.
Breanna, for you, I'm calling it like, what's the grown-up version? I was just thinking as like Dan's explaining this, what's the grown-up version of what he's saying look like when it comes to the CX playbook for an established brand?
Yeah, I mean, the playbook for an established brand is constantly, you're constantly tweaking it and evolving it and growing it. And so again, it kind of starts with that foundation, right? Like Dan's building that right now. He's thinking about, okay, what are we potentially going to need as far as process resources? And then he's going to continue to build upon that foundation. And some things are going to be like, awesome, great, we solved for that. Our return policy, we know what we're going to go out the gate with. But oh shoot, okay, these exchanges are resulting in us getting back a ton of worn product, and we're having to damage it out, and it's adding all these costs. We're going to kind of tweak things and pivot a little bit, and maybe we cut back that timeline a little shorter, whatever. So you're constantly tweaking and evolving that. And that doesn't ever stop, because the reality is our industry is always evolving. I mean, we saw this most prominently in like 2020, how we all just shifted everything the way we thought. Then we started to see with the current state of economy, like people's shopping patterns change. And so we've got to change. How are we going to market to them? How are we going to show up for them? And so you're constantly in the CX space having to adjust and pivot. Again, processes are going to change, right? You're going to determine, okay, we did free returns. Now we're going to charge for returns because it's hitting, our bottom line. So with a playbook, it needs to be something that you are constantly, just pouring into and making sure that you are willing to adjust, and that needs to be your one source of truth. I will say that. Make sure that as you're working to build these playbooks, you don't have like duplicate versions of it, because that's always a risk. If your FAQs are living on your website, like make sure that that's your link. If it's living within some sort of a tech stack, that's where you update, and that's where you direct your CX leaders or users. So that way you don't have things living in two different places that could potentially, like, oh, we updated here, we forgot to update here. But again, constantly evolving and nurturing that playbook is what we're all going to do over the course of our time with these brands.
That's such a good call out, because I've seen that at much larger orgs where it's like, oh, we have a source of truth. Here's the, the version for our actual team. Here's what lives on site. Oh, we have a separate virtual agent AI. Here's where its documentation lives. And really centralizing it out the gate is huge. Even with a lean team here, we have millions of Google Sheets and Notion documents that are all over the place. So something, where as we get closer to launch, we're reinforcing, like, we need a source of truth, and that's going to be the one that we update, and that's what gets loaded everywhere. There's so few hands. We don't have time to go back and change it and, re-update everything. So
yeah. And you'll find that with product teams, they're updating PDPs in Shopify, right? And it's like, okay, but we need a source of truth that we can reference when that product's removed from Shopify, or it's no longer available, or yet maybe it's not in Shopify yet, maybe it's coming. So always helpful to have like product guides that really give you all of the details. And Dan, especially with working at past brands, how, especially big brands where you've got hundreds of thousands of products. So again, just that single source of truth that everybody in the company is investing in is certainly going to be most successful for everybody to activate on.
I'm kind of curious, Dan, as we're talking about this stuff too, like when you guys launch, what are the signals that you guys are going to be looking for to know that what you've built out is working? Because like you don't have, I was just thinking about this, because it's like you don't have like a return rate to compare against, or a CSAT score, like everything, no reviews, right? Like everything's fresh. So what are the signals that you're looking for when you launch?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to sound cliche on this podcast, but, our CX team, our CX manager, like, they're going to be the central hub of hearing that voice of the customer. And we're really, like, I imagine what we've talked about is we're going to launch, we'll all be sitting around a conference room, as small and mighty as, this startup life is, but we're going to be sitting there and we're going to be all in there reading tickets. We're going to be looking at, following loop KPIs or, returns every day, and really just checking that. And then, we're going to have to check outside social sources as well. Like, I think as soon as, this celebrity mentions it and the brand starts going, we're going to be getting constant feedback. And so we're really investing in social listening. Are there tools that we need? How are, we getting comments? How are they getting comments? The customer is never quiet, especially in these situations. So we're just going to try to aggregate as much as possible.
I imagine you're going to be under a massive microscope because you've got a celebrity to it. So there people hold you to a higher standard than they do when True Classic rolls out men's basics, right? Men and basics, you're kind of like, no, this is what I expect. I'm wearing a True Classic t-shirt. I'm a big fan of the brand. It's like, okay, this is what I expect. So no, I appreciate both of that. I think that's an interesting thing to take over to the next segment, which segment 2 is the CX confession booth. And I'm thinking about this. So maybe you'll have more to confess. We'll do a follow-up with you, Dan, but like obviously think about some things, some mistakes that you've learned, or things. Maybe you've made some mistakes already while you're launching this, but I want to start with you, Breanna. Like, what's a decision that you maybe regretted when you were doing, when you were kind of like launching True Classic or building it out over the years, or a mistake that you made or something that you learned from?
Yeah, I think there's a ton, especially as you just like trial and error in many instances. Like to Dan's point, he's going to have to figure it out as they go. So we did a lot of that in the beginning. We kind of figured it out as we went. I think for me, I originally thought that I could build and scale support teams on my own. And it proved to be really hard. It proved to be hard for me because we were, of course, a lean and mighty team. And I had no problem getting, boots on the ground and in there responding to tickets. But it was really hard during the holiday season because we were all working like 755 hours a week and just like, I mean, it was crazy. And I learned later on in life, like partnering with BPOs can help you find valuable resources to scale your business up or down. And especially during the holiday season, to where like maybe you don't know if you're going to have overtime or if you're going to have extra people because something's going to break. So I learned through those trial and error of those Black Friday, Cyber Monday craziness of like how to scale your team, how to predict what we're going to be up against, and then like partnering with somebody that could have my back and hire people and train them and get them up and running that didn't necessarily create so much pressure for myself.
How was that first Black Friday, Cyber Monday for True Classic?
Gosh, it was hell, absolute hell. The inventory shortages, like this is the trial and error crap that you learn. Like I'm helping a brand right now go through that. It's like, oh, we didn't expect we'd have inventory shortages. And I'm like, yeah, so everything you don't expect, you plan for. Like you think your website's going to go down. What is your plan? Because that's like what I got to over every year, to where it finally got to a place where I didn't have to work on Thanksgiving. Like I had a team that was so freaking killer that I didn't have to work. My management team didn't have to work. Like, of course we would be there and we would, be very available to them. We were checking in. We were mostly showing up and supporting our team that was on the front lines, but that was like unheard of. To not have to miss your Thanksgiving dinner was like the first time in 10 plus years. So God, those were hard. Shortages, inventory. It's always inventory shortages that someone else jacked up. And you're like, lovely. Okay. Yeah, sure. No, I'll get yelled at by 7 million people. No problem.
And brands love to keep selling even when inventory is behind on, especially on Shopify. It's like, then they're like, let's just keep going. Dan, what about you? Maybe something while you're planning this launch, or even something from your time at I always prefer to just say Olakai versus Archipelago.
Well, that is, the big boy, them and Melon kind of, are the big ones over there. I mean, well, one, this is my first BFCM without a live brand in 6 years. So I'm going to enjoy my Thanksgiving and not be getting up and stressing. So that's a nice little bonus, but it would be stressed in other ways, obviously. I mean, I think, I don't know. I've had, horror stories, things like BFCM last year, one of my brands, we had an app and we did a gift with purchase and we never enabled the gift with purchase on the app. And so, 5 figures of orders that we had to manually go through and have our BPO and CX team additionally ship. And you imagine shipping separately, manually inputting. Yeah, just absolute nightmare. And it's, you have these checklists, and coming from the digital side and e-com side, I'm always so focused on technology. Or what happens if our site goes down? What happens if, one of our partners fails? But there's still human error involved. And so for me, it's just thinking about automating the testing after that and, triple checking, especially in peak times of high visibility, just to not have that happen. But yeah, I mean, right now I'm worried about having everything in place. I think what am I not thinking of? Whether it's a system, partner, tool, like I know that there's on, so that's why like having this conversation is very timely, because it's almost like, all right, let me pick Breanna's mind and be like, okay, what would you do in this situation? And I'm quickly writing down notes over here during this entire thing. But it's, there's going to be stuff that, we have experienced, but we can't recall everything or focus on everything. And then the other big thing is right now it's prioritizing. Low manpower, like light teams. So what is truly the big, that if you're looking at quadrants, that high complexity but high ROI, type of thing that we can accomplish and really make sure that we're set. So it's all about trying to triage and putting that process in place.
Breanna, when did True Classic launch? Like what month?
So they launched in 2019, and then I joined them in 2020, right as they were like starting to scale. So they had already been, I don't know exactly what month it was in 2019, but that 2020, that first year I was with them was their biggest, obviously, Black Friday ever. So they really didn't didn't have anything before that. There was no sale or promotion. So that was the first time that they were like literally out there pushing ads and doing everything.
Yeah, before we wrap up this segment, so as Dan was kind of talking about like how he's taking these notes, what if you could go back to 2020, what's something that you would DM your day one self, like a line of advice that you would give yourself? I mean, 2020 was a wild time in general.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine, but like all that stuff aside, like what's something that you would have said that you wish you would have prepped for?
Are you asking Dan or me?
I'm asking you because
okay. So
Dan's not even on his day one self yet.
Okay. Well, I know, but he was around in 2020 doing stuff. Okay. So I was thinking about this when Dan was talking, and I was like, okay, so my brain is like literally on, I don't want to say something inappropriate, but let's just say caffeine, like spinning wheels. Like I'm thinking, okay, Dan, so do you know like how many people you need to put on your support team? Like, do you know how to calculate that? Like that was something that I had no freaking clue of, like how to build forecast for your support team and think about budgets and everything like that. So like if I was to start over again and start building a team from the ground up, I'd be thinking about that like for my tech stack, everything. Like I remember later on learning about, okay, how do I calculate my cost per conversation? So that way I know when I'm talking to these vendors, like, does it make sense for me to automate with like a partner like a Flip CX, right? That's going to cost me out of the pocket, but on the back end, I'm saving on overhead from like employee costs and just phone costs. We know phones are like highest dollar channel. So like thinking about all of that, Dan, as you're like talking through, like, where do I start? Those are the kinds of things that I think about. And so much so that like, I'm over here, like DMing one of the girls that I work with on one of the brands, just saying like, hey, are you considering pre-orders for Q4? Because if you've got inventory coming in January, like you could sell it in December as a pre-order and bank that money in December if you need that revenue. So it's like just things like that. That's like where my mind is now compared to where I was in 2020 is like 40 years. Like I'm just so constantly.
No pressure,
like,
Dan. It's not one tip; it's 50 tips.
Yeah.
Brianna would DM herself.
I had to cram a whole lifetime of experience.
Seriously.
Like, hey,
honestly,
what's
though,
one
Dan,
tip? And Brianna's like, did you think about these 50 things, Brianna?
I told you, I said caffeine. It's like Diet Coke brain. I'm just like squirrel. But I think about where I would start is just essentially thinking about, as a consumer, Dan, which is going to be hard for you considering the apparel you're selling. Unless
I'm way too close to everything.
unless you're
not your target demographic, I think is what she's trying to say.
Maybe I shouldn't, because maybe
but you weren't either. You were
and you're right.
Basic.
You're right. And so that was something I had to learn. So my previous life was very easy because my consumer audience was a mom, was a busy mom. And I'm like, perfect. That's me. And I can hire everybody like that. So having to take on that new brand voice, Larry, is a good point. Learning all of that early on was something new, and it was exciting. It was fun. But just thinking about if your target audience is women, Dan, I'll be praying for you, because they're so high maintenance, and especially if we're talking apparel. But thinking about worst case scenario, what is it? And it doesn't mean you have to solve it. It doesn't mean you have to have all the answers, but just we've got to have some proactive solutions to equip our team so that way we can react quickly. And you already talked about this. You're already going to be invested in the voice of the customer and measuring that. And that's the best thing you can do, because that's going to allow your product team to determine, okay, how do we produce better product to show up for them? We're going to help ops to know, okay, how do we drive down costs, right? We don't want to do split shipping or whatever it may be that you're looking at. So being able to take all of that, quantify it, and then make adjustments is going to be key to your success early on.
No tall tasks there, just quantify everything and have it ready. But no, I mean, I think you make a good point. I mean, I've been fortunate that I was always, for a lot of the brands I work for, their core consumer. So that made, knowing the product, knowing the brand voice, and especially established brands very easily. We're sitting around as a team writing copy, making brand voice, and like determining what this is going to sound like. So it's all new, and then a different product. And how do you make sure you understand that and educate the consumer?
segment 3 is the designer's toolbox. And I want to stay with you, Dan, because I'm thinking about this idea of lean now, scale later. So I'm curious, as you're getting close to launch, like what are your day one tech stack must-haves? And then maybe Breanna, like piggybacking on what he says, like what you were thinking about as you were wrapping up your time at True Classic that were like your must-haves.
Yeah, I mean, I think being the technology guy, I'm always excited by new technology, but I realize how technology can bloat, your experience and overcomplicate things. So trying to keep things very simple for launch, less points of failure, less things to manage, less vendors. So, we're Shopify first ecosystem, so having a good ticketing platform for our agents that has an AI agent, as much AI functionality. Now we know, our AI, conversation close rate is going to be really small to start because, again, brand new brand. We're not going to have everything completely built out, and we're going to have to, QA the hell out of it quickly because it can't have it going off the rails. But I think having that as the foundation, because the team's going to be small and mighty, having a strong returns partner that we believe in the technology. I've been spending basically the last 2 months just QAing our operational architecture, like tech systems from order through all the way through delivery with our 3PL partner and then back through returns and exchanges, and that's one thing where I could actually test almost every single scenario because I've seen them all. So really feeling good about that. So we know it's going to be smooth on that experience. But then, making sure the front end as we have the, our AI chat on site, making sure that that's, at least in a serviceable place, it's going to continue to evolve over time. I think the key is reducing reactive tickets, where's my order, returns, exchanges, some product questions, not going into revenue driving, but obviously just cutting down because we're going to have a lot of inbounds and not a large team, we're not going to be scaled yet. And then the last piece is, fraud protection, something on the back end. I'm a big fan of Yofi.
No, we can't talk about Yofi. I'm literally going to call Adam.
Why?
Because I'm gonna call Adam because I literally told him if frickin' Dan brings up Yofi, I'm gonna be like, you have to sponsor my podcast.
It was not a plug. We did talk this morning, but about something else. But yeah, Adam, I mean, some sort of fraud.
Oh my God, he literally is calling.
Adam, I'm on the podcast right now with Dan and Breanna, and we're at the part where we have to talk about what technology they like. And Dan brought up Yofi, so you need to sponsor this episode.
Like me personally, so I have to pay you out of my pocket?
No. Yofi and no fraud. I'm going to send you a bill for the episode because this is too much. Wait. This is too much free publicity.
I want the meta glasses. That no fraud sent.
Breanna should be talking about Yofi too.
You're on the podcast. You're on the podcast right now.
I was literally going to. When Dan said Yofi, I was like,
yeah. So.
Oh, he can't hear. He can't see me.
I'll forward just invoice us and I'll forward it on.
Perfect. I'm going to do it. Bye. Okay. So Dan, you can talk about Yofi, but, and I'm a huge fan of Yofi too, right? Like I give him crap, but it's really like literally the theme of this season has been fraud and fraud prevention. And, Breanna and I, not to now go on a tangent, but Breanna and I used to talk about this all the time when she was at True Classic. We were constantly moving the levers around returns and exchanges to avoid policy abuse, fraud abuse, all this stuff.
Well, that's how I ended up with Parcel Lab.
Yeah, because we were thinking about it all the time, right? And it's like, but what I'm curious, and I know Yofi's something new for you. Were you using them at Archipelago? Okay.
We were one of their first big customers.
I was like, what? You were? They were like so new.
A year, yeah. Well,
I'm so pissed.
I mean, I would love to talk about if we'll re-record this if Yofi does sponsor, but when you think about the tech stack, and we can talk about Yofi here in a second, but I'm thinking, what's something in your tech stack that you haven't used before that you're going to implement for this new brand that you're excited about, that's like untested for you, right? Because I feel like you've had some time, you've got the experience, you know what you liked and didn't like from the last one. So you obviously brought over the vendors that you did like. And so what is something that maybe is new that you're like, ooh, this is going to be kind of cool? And you can name drop them if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we are keeping things very lean. Like I have a big wish list for like once we go live, but like we're really truly trying to keep things tried and true and not going out on a limb at this point, just because
All
For
right.
me, that's too much anxiety and too much. I mean, the biggest thing that we're doing now that most startups wouldn't do is we are installing an ERP out the gate. So not just relying on Shopify as our source of truth, but having that, central brain for finance, which creates challenges on the CX side, but also gives us more opportunity when you think about, sending, sample orders, influencer orders, or tracking.
Who are you using?
We're installing NetSuite as the center of our,
Yeah.
So that's
Wait,
just something that I would call out.
So you're going to put all of those orders in NetSuite outside of Shopify?
Yes. Yeah, that's going to be our central source of truth. But again, there's a whole architectural piece that it's not going to slow things down. It's more for truing up. But
Right.
For me, just having that and clean reporting for finance, because as much as I love Shopify reporting, I've never met a CFO that's like, this is actually accurate. So
tell me about it. Every finance team, I mean, I deal with this with Breanna on the brands that she's consulting that work with me now too. It's always finance reporting. And I'm like, it's Shopify limitations, people. I can't help it. Okay, so Yofi, return fraud. I think that's really cool that you are bringing them in and that you're thinking about return fraud before you even have returns. I mean, that's something that you took from your previous world you're bringing into this. And obviously celebrity-backed brands are probably a little more rife for fraud because it's going to be a hot ticket item when it launches. What are you thinking about? Like, how are you thinking of leveraging this technology?
Yeah, it's not even the return side's great, whole nother piece of the pie, but really proactive, good actor, bad actor, tagging and reporting, be able to create flows on suspicious orders. And then resellers, we have a feeling we're going to be dealing with that as well. And not all resellers are bad, but we want the customer to have the best experience when the site launches and that there's inventory for them. The worst thing you do is be like, we're launching something great. And then you go to the site and a second after launch and it's gone. Not that we're expecting that, but we want to make sure that we do have, we're rewarding the good customers. And that's the other thing that when I first tried Yofi, being able to actually point out the LTV of every customer against that fraud metric and being like, this is a really good customer. How do you make a better experience, whether it's waiving, shipping fees or making easy and free returns, like those type of things as you become more mature, really, benefit the brand on the retention side of things. But really, out the gate, just trying to have a good eye on things. I've been at very large brands that were using essentially Shopify flows and white pages to stop orders, and they're reviewing every customer in there. And so got to have some sort of automation and AI layer.
Maybe it doesn't happen as much anymore, but I worked with a handful of years ago with a large brand that, we can guess, but they sell tumblers as kind of like what their core product is. And they didn't own their Amazon store, right? So what was happening, because no one was thinking about that, people were buying on sale or bulk and then reselling on Amazon or knockoffs, and they were owning that Amazon thing. So I don't know if that happens as much anymore, but like if you're a brand that's growing, if you're not owning all your marketplaces, then somebody else could come in. And I never thought about this. You could come and buy, I could have bought 1,000 shirts at True Classic, put them up on Amazon, and then I could also dictate the prices, drive traffic there through Honey. It's an interesting thing to think about if you're a brand that's going to go viral without knowing you're going viral. Breanna, I think, so all the things that Dan talked about, minus Yofi. I mean, if you want to talk about Yofi, you can too, but we'll cut it if he doesn't sponsor. What do you think about your designer toolbox from like this upgraded, more enhanced standpoint? So you have the technology you worked with when you started, and then you have the technology you worked with when you left. Yes. What are things that you were starting to think about and you were liking as you were leaving?
So my thing was annually I would go through like our help desk and I would always do an audit to see like, okay, is this the right partner for us? Are they scaling with us? Are they showing up for us, as we're evolving and changing? And I found myself in a place where I was like, I think I got to make a change. And I wanted to be with a system that was more innovative, and there was basically like two options at the time. So I made that leap, and people are always afraid to change their help desk because they feel like it's such a big and scary thing. And so one thing I've learned over the course of these years is like, don't be afraid of that. Like audit your vendors every year to make sure that they're providing as much value to you and your brand as you are providing to them. Especially in a situation like Dan, where he's going to have this viral product that's going to blow it out the water. Like you want to make sure that you're working with people that can support that. And as your business changes, I want to be partnered with people that are going to build solutions for my business, which is exactly how I ended up with the Zowies of the world and the Parcel Lab of the world and the Flip CX of the world. I obviously didn't meet Yofi until later in life, which I was looking for. And that's kind of how I ended up meeting Parcel Lab, is over return fraud. But yeah, I think it's just thinking about, again, Dan, you want to come out with a lean team. You probably want to stick with a lean team as much as you can, even as the business scales. So it's like, this is where those vendors are so valuable. And if you know your cost per conversation and you know your operational costs versus, like your overhead costs and hard costs, when you know all of that, you can then put in these strategic partners that are going to help you build solutions, customized solutions for your brand that are going to obviously help you and your team solve proactively, drive innovation, and really be those leaders in the industry versus, kind of doing this like plug and play, what a lot of brands do, especially at startup phase, which makes sense. Like, hey, so-and-so use them, I'm just going to use them. And we just kind of plug and play. Or they'll try to do something with a vendor that's like, oh, we do all of it between A to Z. We do it all.
Yeah.
That always scares me because I'm like, well, how much can you be a expert in this area and that area? So there's a good balance, but that's kind of what I've learned.
Yeah. No, I love to hear that because, I mean, there's one thing, there's playing it safe and going with vendors that but also things evolve quickly. We talked, Larry and I have known each other a year and a half. You've gotten to know each other 3 years. Like, and think about how much technology has changed since then.
Gosh. Yes.
Agentic, commerce and all of that going. I was fortunate when I was at Olokai, we built Sierra AI's first agent with them. We were their first customer, and that's enterprise level, AI chat agents. Definitely overkill for an e-commerce brand. I think their partners are like SiriusXM, Bose of the world. They're definitely evolving. But that really opened my eyes to like what the future can be. And now you do want to keep teams lean. You want to automate everything. You just got to make sure you're ready for it as a brand, because I think there's different stumbling blocks that come with that, no matter how great the tech is.
100%, so. Yeah, and your demographic too, like.
Mm-hmm. And Parcel Lab was built for enterprise brands, and so True Classic was really the Shopify. Like, we were built for the IKEAs and the H&Ms of the world, who move a little slower. No offense to those brands. And I think we weren't ready for Breanna and True Classic, right? So when we came on, like, we knew we had a great product, but she. I always call Breanna like a thought leader. Michael, when he was at Hexclad, like this idea of a thought leader, it's like these experienced designers that are pushing the boundaries of what technology can do. And we still, to this day, 3 years later, have a weekly call with the CX team at True Classic that our founder gets on, and we're constantly enhancing and adding and updating. And so I always joke when you say you built out this chatbot, like Breanna was the one who she almost knows too much about Parcel Lab, that now when she works with these new brands, I'm like, no, you can't talk to them about those features because
they're not available to everybody.
Those features. They're not in scope.
What do you think about how I text Julian? Like, I text him on his cell phone. He's probably like,
I don't mind, but I'm sure Julian
gave her my number.
I don't mind, but Julian might. We'll include a clip of him giving his opinion here in like a little bubble.
Yeah.
So we've got so much good information in here. I think we've talked about a lot about the customer journey, but I really want to, for segment 4, and I want to really dial in on this. And I think I'm going to start with you again, Dan, here. When you're thinking of the customer journey, what's one thing that you've really been hyper focused on before you launch?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because it's the biggest drain on the P&L, but returns, and like, what does returns policies look like? How do you balance friction of returns for the customer versus, a great customer experience? I've been on both sides of the coin. It's like, we can make this super easy. And then you look at, your P&L and you're like, well, maybe too easy to create a return exchange. And so we're, really having a lot of spirited conversations on what does that look like? And it's kind of comes from the ethos of the brand. Are you always customer centric, customer, give them exactly what they want, or do you put up a little bit of a wall? So we're hyper focused on that. And then, as I mentioned before, just testing that experience and really, experiencing it from the customer side. So trying to drive that. So I know it's kind of like a easy answer, but it's the biggest thing. And, it's drilled into my head every day by the CFO.
So is super involved in the idea of the journey? Like, are they saying what they think that this experience looks like, or how hands-on is the celebrity in the journey?
Yeah, I mean, definitely all over the website and understanding the experience. We're just getting to a point where we can actually test the journey and have them go through it. So they're going to have, place orders and see what it's like. I'll see if I can get them to place a return. You only get limited windows here of walking them through something, but, heavily involved. So we're trying to get that sign up.
We're gonna bleep it all.
Did he say?
We're gonna bleep it all.
Dang it. Okay. I thought it was gonna be a good teaser.
We're gonna bleep it. Well, it's even a better teaser when we bleep it. Then everyone's gonna be like, "Wait, what did his
what did they say? What did they say?" Yeah, that's so cool.
No, I love that. I've always thought that. I'm working with a couple other celebrity-backed brands that are launching next year, and I've been asking that too. Like, how involved? The celebrities are involved in the product a ton, right? Mm-hmm. But then, because obviously it's representing them, their look, their feel, their brand image, but how involved are they in the customer experience piece? Breanna, for you, like when you were kind of wrapping up your time at True Classic and you got them to this place where they're pretty self-sufficient with their customer experience, like what was the part of the customer journey that you were most focused on or most proud of?
I think at that point, I was so motivated to build out our virtual shopping assistant. It was something that I was kind of like really passionate about, and we had been working on it for a year before. It's certainly now fast tracked, which is funny to see. Like all these other tech vendors are doing this, but that's what I was so into at that time. And the other thing was like we were optimizing and we were leveraging automation as it worked for that particular, consumer. If it didn't, then we had a team that was available. But that was really exciting to be able to automate so much of the back end that like we didn't have to scale. Like when we first launched with Zowie, it was the first Black Friday where we didn't scale our team because we were automating so much and successfully automating. Like it was really important to us that we measured, well, how does our consumer like this? We didn't want to just be like, oh, great, we're automating. We don't really care if they like it or not. We wanted to know, like, how are they responding to it? And so being able to scale the business in Q4, which we all know is crazy, and not have to, introduce all this manpower or seasonal help was really exciting. And we all were able to have Thanksgiving with our families and not lose our mind. Yeah.
This episode comes out after Thanksgiving. So.
Oh, shit. We were able to, and then
so you're rubbing it into all the brands that weren't able to enjoy Thanksgiving with their family.
Okay, well, we were at Christmas. You were able to enjoy Christmas.
You had a better December. You were able to actually start relaxing, and get your shopping done yourself, and not spend some time with the family.
Yeah, we definitely were late shoppers out there on Christmas Eve.
I know, but now Black Friday spans a month, so
I know it starts in October.
Dan could launch his brand in January and start a Black Friday sale. I just saw Jess Servion had this post yesterday, before we go to the last segment here. And she was like, what is Black Friday anymore? Like bring back the drama. And her and I were messaging. I'm like, bring me back limited quantities, doorbuster sales,
Toys R Us.
Waiting in line. Yeah. Toys R Us. I want the drama of like, running around. She was like, women running around with toasters like it's the Olympics. It's like, that's yes. Can we bring that back? Like feeling like I got a good deal and like I had to just sacrifice for that deal. Now I'm like almost like apprehensive. Is this really a true Black Friday sale?
Everyone's been trained by even like the Amazon Prime Day model. It's like, am I actually getting a deal, or did you guys just play with numbers over the last month and here we are? It's a deal.
I know. That's what
I don't even have to leave my house. I know.
Right.
Gosh, I miss those days. You're right. That's a good point. I mean, I don't miss them, but as a young parent out there in those freaking freezing nights waiting for Toys R Us lines, I remember that.
Yeah, but Walmart I'll shop TVs. Online. That's my CX for segment 5, the CX Mythbuster. That's my myth, is that you don't need a month-long Black Friday sale I will still give you all my money on Thursday, Friday, and Monday. Give it to me over like a 3-day window and make me feel like I just got the most amazing deal ever. And I will still give you all my money from the comfort of my home.
But the reason why they do that is because all these brands started their promotions earlier. And so then everybody followed suit, because I don't want you to buy from my competitor that gave a deal before I did.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We gotta.
I mean, it's a race to the bottom. I mean,
Yeah.
I think going on myths, it's like, what if you just sat that out? It depends on your category, but if you just don't discount at all, like, would you have a stronger P&L year round and then not all this pent up demand? Whereas like once your customer knows you're going to do that deal every year, like it's kind of antithetical to building, a certain level of brand. Obviously there's certain categories you just have to play the game, but if you could really do that, I mean, that's the dream, right? And then, then everyone can enjoy their holidays because you're not having this crazy flurry.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, Dan, what do you want your myth to be? Like, what's something you want to get off your chest as you're building this brand, or something you see on LinkedIn that bothers you? You made it to the end of the podcast. Mm-hmm. You've got a fire hose of information from Breanna. So now you have a ton of homework. What's something you want to get off your chest as we end the episode?
Yeah, I thought about this one, and coming from, the self-appointed technology side of the house, not everyone needs an AI agent. That doesn't make sense for every brand. And sometimes it's slowing down customers. I think there's so many good ones out there. There's so many bad ones. And the bad ones kill brands. It takes people out of the shopping experience. You see, stats, touted. It's like we've closed 65% of tickets, with our AI agent. But that's not always a good metric. Like, especially when you get into the good ones that are actually driving revenue, like they may actually create some more tickets for your human agents because they've gotten them almost to the purchase phase. And, they just need a little help across the line, or they've teed up a cart. So I don't know, everyone's metrics related to their agents, they're all sliding scales. And I love AI as much as everyone, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah. I just talked about that with Gabe today on a LinkedIn Live that we talked about. He asked me about AI and CX, and I said, I think it depends on your brand and your feelings. Some people are like, I just want to automate 30%. And some brands I talk to are like, I want to automate 70%, and it just depends. And it shouldn't be a one size fits all approach for everybody.
Agree.
Breanna, what about you? What do you, after all this time?
So I think the last couple of years, my myth buster has been like, hey, AI is not plug and play. So all you people that are so gung ho over AI, like it's not going to solve all the problems. Like you have to invest in it just as much you would a human. But I think this year I've sort of evolved into like, you don't need to figure every single thing out. You don't have to have the answer to every single problem, and prepare and have that in advance. I think you can continue to grow and pivot as you encounter these challenges or maybe setbacks, and constantly thinking about your partnerships and not getting so stuck in these solutions and kind of getting uncomfortable is where I think growth happens.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's
good.
6.
That's good news for me.
Maybe that was
because
6
I'm going to be
myths.
sitting in that.
Yes. Just, it's okay though. It's okay. That's where growth happens. Just remember that.
And I think you told me this too, Breanna, when we first started working together. You were like, I don't want to be the same brand that's using the same technology as everybody else. Like, I want to find the right technology that's for me. So I think that's a myth that I've learned a lot over the last 2 seasons here. As this episode's wrapping up season 2, is like, everybody's got a technology that works for them. And just because there's your competitors, there's other brands that are using it, doesn't mean that you have to make it work for you.
Exactly.
And it's okay to look out there and see what else could work.
Exactly.
No, I appreciate this. What a fun way to wrap this season up. And I think it'd be really fun. Dan, are you going to be at Shop Talk?
That's probably the first time I'm getting out of my cage.
Probably March, he's going to be like a celebrity there now, Larry.
So I'm already signing you up for whatever CX Mixer events I'm doing.
Bring the
Teaser.
DJ.
Yeah, wait, here's my teaser. It's not a celebrity-backed brand, but I'm doing In-N-Out Burger again for sure. And
Best event.
I'll bring my own
That was.
sunglasses, so I don't need to
Yeah.
borrow yours. And then I'll do my super secret VIP lunch that I think you both maybe met at last year.
Mhm.
But that'll be 90 days almost, right? Since your launch.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you were-
exactly. So I'm looking forward, like realistically, that is the first time I'm going to be out and about again. So I'll be looking forward to coming up for air and actually like seeing
Wow.
everyone and, you know, getting a pulse for what's new because I will have missed almost everything that's changed in society by then.
So
That's
we're
so
gonna
cool.
grab burgers and we're gonna be able to talk about the celebrity and we're gonna say from this episode what you learned over 90 days. We're gonna do like a little on-demand episode so that way people who are listening can follow up and see what life's like. So if there isn't an episode from 90 days from now on the side of the street in Las Vegas, then Dan's still overwhelmed.
That was our season finale.
Yes, but if people want to connect with you on LinkedIn or meet you at a future CX Mixer event. But you guys, thanks so much. I appreciate you being on. So is super involved in the idea of the journey, like,
But, you know, heavily involved. So we're trying
Did he
to
say?
get that sign up.
we're gonna bleep it all.
Did he say?
We're gonna bleep it all.